A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. Jesus told his disciples this parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out at dawn to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with them for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. Going out about 9 o'clock, the landowner saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You too go into my vineyard, and I will give you what is just." So off they went. And he went out again around noon, and around 3 o'clock, and did likewise. Going out about 5 o'clock, the landowner found others standing around, and he said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all day?" And they answered, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You too go into my vineyard." When it was evening, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Summon the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and ending with the first." When those who had started about 5 o'clock came, and each received the usual daily wage. So when the first came, they thought that they would receive more. But each of them also got the usual wage. And on receiving it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "The last ones worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who bore the day's burden and the heat." And he said to them in reply, "My friend, I am not cheating you. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what is yours and go. What if I wish to give this last one the same as you? Or am I not free to do as I wish with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous? Thus the last will be first, and the first will be last." The Gospel of the Lord. Well, hello there. Old Father Francis here, back with you on this 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Well, I'm going to do something that I normally don't do, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm doing a product review, but yesterday, I had a little bit of fun with the school kids. I said, "Hey, the iPhone 6 is coming out today, and I've been up since 4:30. So what do you think I got?" And all the kids at school, the schoolmaster, "Oh, you got an iPhone 6, you got an iPhone 6. No, I got an early start to my day. That's what I got by getting up at 4:30. Because a lot of times people are known for getting up early or standing in line, these long, expansive lines at the Apple store or wherever they're going to buy the iPhone 6. And as much as I do personally enjoy Apple products, those of you who know the old Padre know that I'm a sucker for an iPhone, I guess. But I've never been I've been dedicated, but I've never been that obsessive about being able to stand in line. I just don't have the time to do it. So anyway, but that being said, what happened later in the day surprised me, because I was actually able to finally get on the very first day. This is the first time this has ever happened. I was able to purchase for the first time an Apple phone on the first day. So I'm going to roll a little B-roll of my little Apple iPhone that I got here. This is the iPhone 6. As I'm showing you the iPhone 6, and it has some wonderful features. It's again, I'm not here to be a product spokesman, but I use the phone in my daily ministry. This is the phone happens to be a necessary part of what I do. There are just lots of things that in our new modern technology, the phone. It's amazing that a phone would be so almost invaluable. Might be a little bit overinflated, but I use the phone literally every day to do something parish related, and it's not making videos. I sometimes make a few videos on the phone, but there's so much more that the phone does that keeps me in contact with the office, helps me navigate to people's homes or hospitals, So anyway, as I'm showing you the little B-roll there of the film of the iPhone, maybe it's done now. It was interesting. You might be saying, well, what's an iPhone 6 have to do with the gospel today? And probably precious little, to be honest with you. But maybe there is a connection. Maybe there is something that I could say that does kind of correlate between this whole understanding of what we encounter in the gospel today with the landowner going out and saying, hey, I'd like to hire you guys. I'd like to give you a job. I'd like to give you some employment. I don't want you to be idle. I want you to be productive. I think certainly it goes without saying that the late Steve Jobs was a very successful entrepreneur. He was a very industrious, and some would say driven person when it came to his product line. No doubt about it. He was innovative. So he was not somebody who was standing around idle, and he employed thousands of other people, and especially creative people, I dare say, I guess creative young people, or people young at heart, who were not afraid to, maybe, as the old saying goes, think outside the box. And so this landowner maybe could be seen as maybe kind of like a Steve Jobs kind of guy, guy, because he's constantly going out there looking for new people. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this gospel from that angle, how the landowner is constantly going out looking for new people to work in his vineyard. I'm sure there's other more clever and creative people than I, so I'm sure somebody somewhere has already mined that thought. But again, I think that's kind of intriguing that, again, this guy is very, very acute and enterprising to go out and find new talent to work in the vineyard. But I want to look at this gospel because I think there's a message for all of us, in some ways or another, that I think ties in with being content with the gifts that we have already received in the kingdom of God. Now, I want to go back to my iPhone 6 little story here. I was in the store. I went to a local store here. And again, I didn't have to stand in line. I'm going to tell you the story real quick. What happened was I didn't even buy the phone until late in the day. Another gospel tie-in I have to think about. I didn't get the phone until about 5 o'clock. It was late in the day for me. And I'm thinking, there's no way. There is no way I'm going to be able to go to a store and buy on the very first day of sale an iPhone 6. It's just not going to happen. Normally what happens is I wait a few months. I remember when the iPhone 5S came out, which I really, 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 really wanted. Pardon me if I get a little sip of caffeine here. And normally I wait several months before I get it. Now, sometimes that had to do with the contract. Sometimes it just had to do with the availability. And let's face it, Apple's very smart. They make these really sought-after products, and they make them very scarce. Only certain people, if you're smart enough to pre-order, if you're smart enough to, or you're determined enough to be the first few people in the line at the Apple store or whatever store you're trying to buy them at. One of our dear parishioners, after the Mass at the school, walks up and says, "Hey, Father, look what I got." I was like, oh, I was so envious, because I said, how did you do that? But anyway, I was happy for him, and he had a black version, which looked really sharp and very nice. So anyway, it wasn't late in the day, and again, maybe because of him, I thought, well, maybe if he got one, maybe I could get one, I don't know. So it gave me a little bit of hope. So anyway, I went to this store here in Elk Grove, and I won't mention the name because I don't want to get into, too much product identification here. But so anyway, I went in and I looked and I am kind of the guy who wants the latest and the greatest. And sometimes I I may not be as prudent, thinking, well, if that's the best and the biggest, then that's what I want. Well, sometimes the best and the biggest may be the best and the biggest, don't get me wrong, but it may not suit your needs. It may not be really what's designed to help you. So here's what happened. I went into the store and I saw this guy, I guess I can say his name, Farid. Interesting young man. He's sold me now 3 Apple products in probably the last year, because I got my iPhone 5S maybe 8 months ago, 7 months ago. I finally got one. And it was a good phone, excellent phone. I really, really thought it was a good product. And I was kind of thinking, well, gosh, this iPhone 6 is supposedly coming out, and it was coming out, and finally, well, now it's here. And he says, hey, I got a program where you look like the kind of guy that wants to be with the latest, so we'll put you in this, we'll enroll you in this new program, so when the iPhone 6 comes out, you don't have to wait for your contract to be renewed in 2 or 3 years. You can upgrade whenever you want. And I went, sounds good. So he set me up with that. Anyway, young man, very, very, very go-getting, and he knows his stuff. He knows how to, he's a good salesman. So anyway, I saw him right at the door. He saw me. I said, you're the guy I'm looking for. And he goes, hey, yeah, he goes, I know who you are, and I knew you were going to come back. He said, why weren't you here earlier in the day? I thought, interesting. He goes, I expected to see you here early in the day. And I said, well, I was busy. I had other things I had to do, other commitments, other responsibilities. So he goes, don't tell me you're looking for the iPhone 6 Plus. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I think I am. And he goes, well, let's go over here and look at what your options are. So anyway, he showed me the 6 Plus, and it's a nice phone. I don't deny that. But anyway, when it turned out, he says, well, I'm sorry, but we don't have any today. And I went, oh, well, I kind of thought that. I said, well, I kind of expected that. Well, there's a gentleman standing next to me, and he is getting the iPhone 6. And he is just absolutely over the moon over this thing. He's just looking at all the features, and he's saying, man, the design in this thing is just outstanding. So anyway, this other young man who was my sales clerk, he says, well, oh, by the way, would you be interested in an iPhone 6? And I said, he goes, we don't have the 6 Plus, but we do have one more iPhone 6. But it's the 120 gig memory. Would you be interested in that one? And I said, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I thought they were all sold out. I thought those would already be gone. He goes, no, we got 1 or 2 left. But he goes, I think we got 1 left. And I said, well, and I asked him about the color, because there's a certain color that I like. And he goes, as a matter of fact, that's the one we got. And I'm going, bring it out. Let me see it. So sure enough, he brought this one out. And this other young guy, he probably got the second to the last one, and I'm getting the last one. And this other guy who's buying this thing, he's just over the moon with it. And he starts talking about it. I stopped and I said, well, why did you make the decision to go with the regular one and not the Plus? And he goes, because it fits in my pocket. And I didn't realize, again, that if I had allowed myself to be kind of carried away by the more being envious of the bigger and better, supposedly, I would have kind of shot myself in the foot. Because in many ways, the iPhone that I've had for the last several years is like carrying my office in my pocket. It literally is carrying the office in my pocket. I'll probably get 3 or 4 calls during the day from our lovely secretaries. I'll get maybe requests to go visit people. I'll need to maybe find directions on how to go visit those people. Or, we have so many hospitals in Sacramento and Elk Grove that I got to figure out, okay, how do I get there from here? Great navigation, turn-by-turn voice activated system where I can just listen, hands-free, safe. So this is truly a tool. But if I had kind of allowed myself to be envious and say, but I want the bigger one. I want the plus size. I want the biggest and the brightest. I think I would have really, again, shot myself in the foot, because it wouldn't have worked within my life. I'd have to find out a new way to carry it with me. It sits in the cradle of my truck when I'm driving for navigation. It wouldn't do that anymore. I don't know how I would. I probably would just have to put it in my lap, which is not a good solution at all. It would be sliding off and everything. So at the end of the day, they're parallel to our gospel. At the end of the day, and I took inventory, I said I made the right choice. Now, getting back to the gospel today, the thing is that we are living in such an interesting time in our church and in the world that we are so easily distracted, by things like iPhones and big screen TVs and sporting events and you name it, and world events, And sometimes we can be hoodwinked by the media, by secular society to tell us that we're being cheated. Doggone it, we're not getting our quote-unquote fair share. And we lose sight of the fact that we are truly indeed very blessed and enriched, and we don't really need to be seeking anything else, in our faith life. And unfortunately, there are people in the world, in the media, who want Christians and Catholics to think that somehow they're being cheated, they're being shortchanged because the church is being a big, stingy, miserly entity that is not giving them what they should have. When in fact the church gives us everything we need. And that's what I want to kind of just talk about, is that there are, again, some really dissatisfied people in the church. And the problem is that they think that they can, voice their rancorous opinions, and somehow in time the church is just going to kind of like just cave in and give them what they want. And to be honest, that's not going to happen. And the problem isn't with the church. Now granted, people always love to bring up all the church's faults, all the bad people, whether they're bad priests or bad bishops or bad lay people or bad chancery people or bad diocesan people, or goes all the way down to the janitor. You can blame the janitor for something, I don't know. But that's not a valid argument. It's just not. Because in any organization, you're going to have flawed people. Because human beings are, by nature, flawed. So it's almost like, again, the kettle calling the pot black. Look how black that thing is. Well, it's just kind of a given, isn't it? But the nature of the church, the true divine nature of the church, is perfect. It's beautiful. And that's what people, I think, need to begin to see, is not looking at what I lack or somehow I'm being cheated, because you're not. We're not being cheated. We've been given the greatest gifts in the world by virtue of our baptism. And so for somebody to somehow imply that God, of all people, and his church, by proxy, are somehow cheating people out of something, is well, I think it's misguided. Yeah, it's disingenuous, and it's kind of it's all based on envy. In this gospel, he says, "Are you envious because I'm generous?" And I think that's the answer to a lot of us, is we're kind of envious. Well, we look over at what that secular person might have, or, well, I want that. Where? Well, sorry, it doesn't work that way. And I think the sooner we, as Catholic Christians, do two things. And I think this has to happen. There has to be, if you will, a renaissance. There has to be, again, a rebirth, truly, back to the truth and the beauty of the teachings of the church. We have to value those things. We have to embrace those things and to see that these are the gifts that God longs to give us, instead of saying, I don't want that. It's like a little kid, the parents want to give them good, healthy food, and they go, ew, I don't like that. I want this. And so the problem is that eventually that little kid will grow up and mature and say, wow, this is good. Boy, that steamed broccoli was the best thing in the world, you know. Yeah, you put a little cheese sauce on there if you want to. Yeah. Okay, a little bit of real butter, you know. So anyway, the thing is that we need to kind of quit our whining, and we need to embrace the beauty of the truth of the church, you know. And once we do that, once we kind of say, you know what, Lord, forgive me for being so ungrateful. Forgive me for being so envious of what I perceive that I want. You know, again, a lot of it's ego-driven. The ego is going to tell us that this is what's going to really make you happy. And then you find out 5 minutes after you get that thing that, oh, I want something else now. And it's always going to be that way. So once you begin to realize that your ego is always going to be there on your shoulder telling you all these things, once you begin to realize and recognize that for what it really is, and then you listen to the church on the other side, you know, speaking truth and wisdom and beauty, and you listen to that voice instead of this voice, your life is going to be a whole lot better. Trust me. So anyway, again, I think the wonderful message of this gospel is that the landowner seeks us out. He offers us this great position in his vineyard, and he still rewards us. You know, all we have to do is be grateful and be excited about being a member of his heavenly kingdom and working in his vineyard. After all, at the end of the day, it's his vineyard and not ours. God bless you.